I got to have Wilt Chamberlain as my center. I got to have John Stockton as my point guard. Okay, I got to have LeBron James, Oscar Robertson. I have to put Scottie Pippen as my three-man.
When Karl Malone sat down in June 2013 and said he was my GOAT, everyone thought they knew what he meant. Everyone expected the obvious guy. But what he did was shock the basketball world. His all-time starting five left people confused and angry. Where was Michael Jordan? The backlash was immediate. People said it was bitterness and a grudge from finals losses. But when you dig into why Malone made these picks, you realize something different. This was not about anger or old rivalries. This was about respect. Real respect, the kind that comes from understanding what makes a player great. If you want to understand why Malone's list looks the way it does, hit that hype button right now. Give this video some love and let me show you what respect really means to one of the toughest players in NBA history. Okay, let's get into it. Karl Malone does not respect flashy basketball. He does not respect isolation scorers who take games into their own hands with pure ego. That's not how he sees basketball. When Malone looks at greatness, he sees something very specific. He looks for workhorse mentality. He looks for guys who play heavy minutes and never take a possession off. He looks for players who fill every stat column on the sheet. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. He looks for guys who use their size and strength to physically dominate their opponents. And most important, he looks for unselfishness. Players who choose the right play over the highlight play every single time. That framework is everything when you understand his list. Because what he built was not a highlight reel team. It was a complete team built to function perfectly as a machine. Number 5, Wilt Chamberlain. The way Malone explains this pick tells you how he thinks about basketball. Malone said Chamberlain has the undisputed best statistical resume of all time. Not the best player, not the greatest leader, the undisputed best statistical resume. That matters because Malone is a numbers guy. He finished with 36,928 points and 14,968 rebounds. Wilt's records are unbelievable. 100 points in a single game. No other player has come close. 50.4 points per game in a season. 23,924 rebounds. The volume suggests Wilt played a different sport than everyone else. Now, people will point out that Malone chose Wilt over Bill Russell, who has 11 championship rings while Wilt won only 2. How could Malone possibly make that choice? But this choice reveals something crucial about Malone's core values and what he respects most. Malone never won a championship? Not one. So if he agreed with the rings are everything argument, he would be saying his entire career was less valuable than someone with fewer accolades, but more rings. That does not work for Malone. Instead, he chose the player with the undisputed individual dominance, the stat monster, the player who controlled the game through pure, overwhelming physical superiority. This validates Malone's own legacy as a player who accumulated massive stats and dominated every single night he was on the court. Wilt represents individual greatness separated from team success. A front court of Wilt Chamberlain and LeBron James would be physically overwhelming. No defensive scheme could handle that much size and strength and athleticism. That's exactly what Malone wants. That's the kind of respect he has for physical dominance. Number 4, LeBron James. Malone admitted to having a man crush on LeBron. That's how he said it, a man crush. That language tells you Malone sees something special in LeBron that goes beyond normal admiration. He placed LeBron at power forward, which is massive. That bumped himself and Tim Duncan out of the lineup. Malone respects that because LeBron represents basketball's evolution. When Malone played, a power forward was strong, post-oriented, a mid-range shooter. LeBron changed that blueprint. He's fast. He plays on the perimeter. He's a transition threat. He's an elite passer. He's basically a basketball unicorn. That's why Malone said LeBron would be tough to guard. Malone imagined actually guarding him. How would a traditional power forward like Malone stay in front on the perimeter? He probably couldn't. LeBron has speed that old-school power forwards didn't have, but LeBron also has strength. Malone noted LeBron is about 6'8", around 265 to 275 pounds. That's enough size and strength to dominate in the post and neutralize traditional advantages. But there's something deeper in how Malone respects LeBron. It's the leadership angle. In 2013, when Malone made this list, LeBron was at his absolute peak with the Miami Heat. But LeBron's path to that peak was rough. He got criticized early in his career for not winning. He got criticized for leaving Cleveland. He carried an enormous burden of proof. Malone sees that. Malone faced similar criticism. Malone was a generational talent who never won a ring, and that hung over him. So when LeBron broke through and started winning, Malone respected the mental toughness required to overcome that narrative. Malone also said something remarkable about LeBron. He said, "We will never see it again." That combination of size and skill and athleticism and basketball intelligence, that's extraordinary praise from someone of Malone's stature. It means Malone sees LeBron as a singular physical anomaly, a player so different from normal that he operates outside the normal categories. That's ultimate respect. Number 3, Scottie Pippen. This pick shocks people. It shocks them because Malone put Pippen on the list and Michael Jordan is not there. That absence is so loud it drowns out everything else. People assume bitterness. People assume Malone was upset about the finals losses to Chicago, but Malone's actual reasoning is much more interesting. He said it loud and clear. Scottie Pippen led the team in every statistical category when he was there without Michael Jordan. That statement hangs everything on one season. The 1993 to 94 season. That was the year Michael Jordan stepped away to play minor league baseball. That was the test Malone wanted to see. Could Pippen actually lead a team? Was he just riding Jordan's coattails? The answer was absolutely not. In that season, Pippen averaged 22 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, 2.9 steals per game, 0.8 blocks per game. He led the Bulls in all 5 of those major statistical categories. All 5. That is extraordinarily rare in basketball history. Only a handful of players in NBA history have ever done that. Malone respects this feat because it proves something. It proves versatility. It proves burden carrying. Pippen did not just score. He rebounded like a power forward. He passed like a point guard. He defended the other team's best player with excellence. That's the kind of all-around dominance Malone values. Malone actually said this about Pippen. He said, "I got a man crush on Scottie Pippen." The same language he used for LeBron. That tells you something. That tells you these are not casual picks. These are players Malone genuinely admires at a deep level. Why does Malone see Pippen that way? Because he recognizes a kindred spirit. Pippen did the dirty work, defense, rebounding, grinding in the post, all while Michael Jordan got the lion's share of the global attention and marketing deals. Malone spent his entire career as a co-star with John Stockton. So elevating Pippen, the ultimate number 2 star, feels personal to him. It validates what Malone believes about the value of the co-star, the complementary player. Malone is essentially saying if Pippen had been the main guy, if he had carried the load by himself, he would have been MVP, maybe multiple times over. Pippen finished 3rd in MVP voting that 1994 season, 3rd, behind Karl Malone and Steve Barkley. That detail matters to Malone. It means Pippen proved he belonged in the conversation with the best. Pippen also needed to be a stopper, and Malone needed a stopper in his hypothetical lineup. That's a strategic choice. Pippen is widely regarded as the greatest perimeter defender in history. He could lock down the other team's best player. Malone values defense as much as offense. In his lineup, he needs someone who can balance the offensive load with elite defensive work. Pippen is that person. He's also what's called a point forward. A forward who can initiate the offense, who can handle the ball, who can create for others. That takes pressure off the guards. Malone played in a system that relied on entry passes to the post. So having forwards who can pass and create mismatches makes the whole thing work better. That's how Malone thinks about basketball. Everything connects. Number 2, Oscar Robertson, the Big O. This choice displaces Michael Jordan. Malone said Oscar Robertson at the 2 guard because Robertson was the original do-it-all volume-scoring guard of the league. That's how Malone framed it. Not the flashiest, not the most talented, the original. Malone respects historical lineage. He sees himself as part of a continuum of hard-nosed players, and he sees Robertson as a forefather. Robertson was the original triple-double machine. In 1961-62, he averaged a triple-double for an entire season. 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Not in a single game, for an entire season. That's unprecedented. Russell Westbrook normalized the triple-double achievement decades later, but Robertson did it first and pioneered the concept. That fascinates Malone deeply. A player who dominates every facet of the game. 30 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists shows true dominance over everything. Rebounding shows toughness. Passing shows unselfishness. Scoring shows skill, complete mastery. Malone respects Robertson's physical style too. Robertson was 6 feet 5 inches tall in the 1960s. That was gigantic for a guard position. He used his size to back down smaller defenders. He used his strength to impose his will physically. He played physical basketball at a position that was not supposed to be physical. That resonates deeply with Malone. The strategy behind pairing Robertson with John Stockton is clever. Both are elite passers. Robertson averaged 9.5 assists per game for his career. Stockton averaged 10.5. Malone is constructing a backcourt where the ball never stops moving. The ball never sticks in the hands of a pure scorer who wants to isolate on the wing. Instead, you have two floor generals who understand the game at the highest level. They understand pace. They understand spacing. They understand how to feed the post and keep the offense flowing. Entry passes from Stockton and Robertson to post players like Malone, LeBron, and Wilt would be relentless. That's the kind of machine Malone wants to build. Number 1. John Stockton. This is the foundation of everything. Malone said it himself clearly. I gotta have John Stockton as my point guard. For me to be here tonight, everything had to be perfect. I had to play with a point guard like John Stockton. Think about that carefully. One of the greatest power forwards in history is saying his entire legacy depends on having one specific partner. Everything had to be perfect. That's not arrogance, that's actually humility and perspective. Malone is acknowledging that without Stockton, without his precise delivery, without his understanding of how to run an offense, Malone might not have become the mailman. The stats might have been different. The career trajectory might have been different. That kind of statement shows genuine respect and deep gratitude. Stockton is the floor general, not just a passer, a game manager, someone who dictates tempo, someone who enforces the coach's will, someone who ensures the ball gets distributed according to the hierarchy of the offense. Stockton never averaged more than 17.2 points per game in a season. He could have scored more. He chose not to. He chose to feed the post. Specifically, he chose to feed Malone. That selflessness is what Malone seeks in a teammate. Stockton's statistics are unassailable and speak for themselves. 15,806 assists. That's the all-time record. The gap between him and the second-place guy is absolutely massive. 3,715 more assists than Jason Kidd. The gap between Kidd and the 20th ranked player is smaller than the gap between Stockton and Kidd. 3,265 steals. Also all-time record. Also separated by a huge gap, 19 seasons of consistency. Malone respects that durability. Stockton's postseason assists are absolutely extraordinary. 1,339 playoff assists. That's elite. Malone studied history and respects undisputed facts. Stockton represents structure over improvisation. Magic Johnson's Lakers were flashy. They were creative. They were transition chaos. Stockton's Jazz were built on the Stockton to Malone pick and roll. The same play over and over, so predictable that opponents knew it was coming and still could not stop it. That's the kind of consistency and precision Malone respects. That's the kind of chemistry that wins games. That's the kind of partnership that builds championships. So here's the thing about Karl Malone's list. It's not about drama or controversy or settling old scores. It's about what the mailman actually believes makes a basketball player truly great. Versatility over specialization. Look at his 5 guys. 4 of them are elite passers. Stockton, Robertson, Pippen, and LeBron. All pass-first players. Malone rejects pure scorers. He rejects hero ball. He rejects the idea that one guy taking over means winning. Statistical irrefutability. He picks players with unbreakable records. Stockton's assists, Wilt's points and rebounds, Pippen's all-around dominance in 1994. These are not opinions. These are facts. Physical durability. Malone picks players who stay on the floor, who physically dominate their opponents, who show up every night and do the work. Independent greatness. He values players who prove they could lead without someone else. Pippen without Jordan. Robertson with the Royals. Wilt individually. That kind of proof matters. The real meaning here is simple. Malone's list is a celebration of the complete basketball player. It's a strong rejection of the modern narrative that says the highest scorer is always the best player. In Malone's pantheon, the greatest players are those who can control a game without taking a single shot. Players who can physically overwhelm the opposition. Players who show up night after night to do the work. That's what Karl Malone respects most deeply. That's what the mailman delivered for 18 seasons. A man who played 484 consecutive games straight without missing for injury. A man named All-NBA First Team 11 consecutive seasons in a row. A man who fit perfectly into a rigid system and executed it with relentless consistency and precision. That's Karl Malone. And that's what he sees when he looks at the players he truly respects. Not flashy, not highlighted, just complete, just consistent, just great. Like, subscribe and drop a comment telling us which player on this list shocked you the very most of all. Who did you think Malone would pick instead? Let's build this conversation in the comments. Thank you for watching.